America isn't split by politics. It's split by psychology, two ways of seeing reality itself. For 50 years, we've been living inside one long argument. An argument that begins at the dinner table, erupts in the streets, and now plays out on every glowing screen in our hands. At its core, it's not just about Democrats or Republicans, left or right. It's about the deepest instincts of the human mind. Instincts that make neighbors feel like strangers, and strangers feel like enemies. Go back to 1970, New York City. On one side, young protesters chant for peace in Vietnam. On the other, construction workers in hard hats march toward them, waving American flags. One group sees a corrupt war stealing lives. The other sees spoiled kids spitting on the country that gave them everything. Fists fly. Dozens are injured. It's called the Hard Hat Riot, but really, it's a glimpse of something deeper. Psychologists call it in-group versus out-group bias, the instinct to protect us and demonize them. In that moment, each side is utterly convinced the other is not just wrong, but dangerous. By the 1980s, the divide takes on a moral edge. Evangelical leaders rise, calling their followers the moral majority. They thunder that abortion and feminism are sins tearing America apart. Millions rally behind them, guided by the moral foundations of loyalty, sanctity, and authority. Across the divide, feminists and civil rights activists march for equality, guided by the moral foundations of care and fairness. Each side tastes morality differently, like two people eating the same meal but arguing over the flavor. In the 1990s, with the Cold War over, Americans no longer unite against a common enemy. They turn inward. Conservatives and liberals sort into purer camps. Neighbors begin to self-segregate, choosing towns, churches, even marriages that reflect their tribe. Cable news becomes the soundtrack of polarization. Rush Limbaugh thunders on one frequency, NPR counters on another. This is confirmation bias in action. We tune into the stories that prove we were right all along. Then September 11th, 2001. For a brief, heartbreaking moment, America is one again. Strangers hug, flags wave. Democrats and Republicans sing on the Capitol steps. But unity dissolves as fear takes hold. To those wired for order and tradition, Obama's rise signals a country changing too fast. The Tea Party erupts, channeling that fear into rage. Meanwhile, progressives lean harder into identity politics, fighting for racial justice, immigrant rights. To conservatives, it feels like their own identity is under attack. To progressives, it feels like unfinished promises of equality finally being addressed. Both sides, clinging to identity, convinced the other is trying to erase them. By 2016, the stage is set for a strongman. Donald Trump descends the escalator and promises to make America great again. To his followers, he isn't just a candidate. He's a savior. At his rallies, crowds chant, "Build the wall." Threat sensitivity is triggered. Loyalty is cemented. The movement functions almost like a religion, with Trump as the high priest of resentment and belonging. Meanwhile, millions of Americans look on in horror, seeing him as the embodiment of hatred and cruelty. Families split. Friendships die. Politics is no longer about policy. It's about identity itself. And now, in the 2020s, the divide doesn't just live in our Congress or protests. It lives in our phones. Algorithms study our clicks and feed us outrage like an IV drip. Psychologists call it moral outrage amplification. Immigration clips go viral. One side sees crying families and feels compassion. The other sees chaos and feels fear. Cancel culture erupts on the left. Anti-woke crusades on the right. Both are the same instinct: policing the tribe, punishing those who break its rules. Conspiracies spread like wildfire because our brains are wired to see patterns, even when none exist. It feels safer to believe in hidden hands than to accept chaos. The cost? Polls show majorities of Republicans and Democrats now see the other side not just as wrong, but as a threat to the nation's survival. That's dehumanization. And when opponents stop being human in our minds, violence becomes thinkable. That's how January 6th happened. But here's what psychology also teaches us. If the divide is rooted in the mind, so is the cure. We can't erase our wiring, but we can recognize it. We can slow down when outrage spikes and ask, is this my bias talking or reality? It's the human mind, fighting with itself.